Hey, look, like if you bought this record to learn how to speak hip from a record man, that is the squarest thing I ever heard of. I mean, wow. But look, so like you bought it, you must need it. So that was a smart move, you know what I mean, or something?
Hello there, and welcome to the exciting world of hip.
Oh, just relax, baby. Me and this other cat, we're going to straighten you out.
This is a new departure in language instruction for English-speaking people who want to talk to and be understood by jazz musicians, hipsters, beatniks, juvenile delinquents, and the criminal fringe.
What time is it? I got to make a phone call.
Shh. The twilight world of the American hipster is an important American subculture with a language all its own. To enable you to speak this language of hip exactly like the hipsters themselves, we've provided an actual hipster to teach you the correct pronunciation and delivery of his language.
Great.
Ladies and gentlemen, your instructor, Mr. Geets Romo.
Look, it's going to be a long session, man. Let's head out for some pizza or something, huh?
Mr. Romo, would you speak into the microphone, please?
I just want to say this is a wonderful thing, what you're doing, so the public can pick up on what's happening, straighten everybody out and let them know where this whole other scene is, where it's at. So everybody will stop coming on all the time. And then we'll get, world peace.
Lesson 1. Basic hip. Basic to hip is the concept of digging, to dig. Mr. Geets Romo, how would you define dig?
Well, man, like when you dig something.
Well, yes, but...
Well, dig, baby. It's like, when you dig some chick or some cat. Or when you pick up on something, you dig it, you dig?
To dig, then, would mean to like, to understand, or to appreciate.
Dig, it's like... No, it's more like in music, you dig? You know what is a quarter tone? Like you get a note in there between C and C sharp, and that's its own sound, I mean, you can't call it C because it isn't. That's like dig. Dig means dig. Like if you don't dig and you say dig, I dig where you're at. Like on the wrong cat, it's the wrong word. Dig?
Ladies and gentlemen, now you begin to see one of our problems with the hip language. Each hip word or phrase carries with it an implication of the speaker's background and his involvement in hip society. In other words, the phrase, I dig, not only means I understand, but I am a special sort of person who understands in a very special way.
Yeah, that is exactly what I said.
In other words, I'm saying I am hip.
Dig yourself, baby. You got a way to go.
Lesson 2. Vocabulary building. No doubt some of the expressions Mr. Romo has just used are unfamiliar to you. Let's examine some of these phrases more closely. Mr. Geets Romo, your instructor, will pronounce a series of hip words and phrases. After each one, there will be a pause so that you can repeat the phrase aloud. Mr. Romo.
Dig. Dig it. Dig yourself, baby. Dig the chick. Dig the cat. Dig the shades on the cat. Yeah, that's where it's at. Dig. Squares. What a drag. What a bring down. Later, for that, man. Forget it.
Greetings and farewells. Greetings.
Hey, do you have any idea how boring this must be?
Oh,
what a drag.
Please, Mr. Romo, just read your little list.
Oh, man. Hey, what's happening, baby? What's shaking, man? Hey, there you go. Hey.
And farewells.
Hey, I'm gonna split. This is a drag. I'm gonna cut. You got eyes to split? Let's make it. You going uptown? I got wheels. Want to ride? My shorts outside. Hey, we're gonna get in the wind. Later.
In the pad.
No, will you tell him to stop beating that gong, man? It's a drag. It's very hard on the nerves.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Romo. Charlie,
all right,
the gong.
Please, my words.
In the pad.
No. I would dig to pick up on some sounds. Turn on the box. Put on some sides. Hey, man, get in the horn, call some freaky people, and we'll have a scene. Oh, we'll have a scene. Hey, man, this is all wrong. Who can learn anything with all these words out of there where they're supposed to be, Dig the cat, see the cat run, dig Geets who read. Anyway, man, you left out a very important thing about the pad.
Well, what is that, Mr. Romo?
Well, dig. One thing that makes a pad different from an apartment is that every pad has a stash.
A stash? Is that anything like a bidet?
Yeah, well, that would make a good stash, but...
What exactly is a,
Well, a stash is a secret place where you can put what you got from the man, so the man who thinks you shouldn't have it won't sneak up on the scene and take it away, and you with it.
Ah. Is there any other differentiating factor?
Yeah, man, things.
Things, Mr. Romo?
Yeah, you find most of your pads are going to have things in them.
What kind of things?
Well, head things. Weird things. Like a weirdness is inherent in a good thing. Some people have string things. Yards and yards of string going all over, or Dixie cup things, or maybe it's a box of lights that flashes at you. I don't know. I know this one cat. He has this ultraviolet ray ozone thing, shoots sparks all over, and it's a gas. Some people have frogs or Mexican statues or eyes or anything that they have. That's a thing.
What do you use these things for?
But to get hung up on. If it doesn't hang you up, it doesn't make it as a thing. You sit there, and you dig it. And maybe you get up. And maybe you get up inside it. And maybe it reaches out and grabs you, and it's weird, man. Dealing with a thing can be a very beautiful experience. It could crack your brain. Some people have things hung all over their beds so they can dig them before they fall out, and that could be very comforting. But that's another thing. And this is very important. You fall out in your pad. Now, it's very uncool to fall out in somebody else's pad, man. You can nod in somebody else's pad. Nod, that's like a very hip nap. Yeah, you can nod there, if it's a cool friend and if you're tight with him. But you don't want cats to fall out on you, because sometimes they're there for days, and you scream split, and they don't even hear you. You have to keep stepping over them, and they hang up the bathroom, and it's a stone drag, believe me. It can be very dangerous to fall out someplace where you don't know the cats too well, because then you're helpless, and you're an easy victim. I know this one cat, he fell out in some freaks, and when he came up, he was tattooed from head to foot with an editorial from the New Republic. Very dangerous to fall out.
The loose wig. One interesting fact about the hip language seems to be that quite often you'll say one thing when you mean exactly the opposite. For example, you will use words such as crazy or nutty to indicate approval.
Right. Like you take a very freaked out chick. If she grooves, and if she's got something happening for her, you say, that chick is insane. What you mean is like she's what do you call it? A good person.
Would you say the hipster's preoccupation with insanity would indicate a rejection, or at least a deep questioning, of the traditional separation of normal and abnormal, sanity and insanity? In other words, a deliberate reassessment and reevaluation of the bourgeois standards of morality and tradition?
No. No, I wouldn't say that. No, I would never say that, man. Dig. Say you're talking about this cat. Say he's a musician, and he really makes it, you dig? I mean, he's into something. He's free, and he swings. Then you say, that cat has got a loose wig. Because it's very important to work on your brains. Smash your brains, crack them. Yeah? That's when it can start happening for you.
I see. St. Teresa once used the phrase, breaking the mind's barriers.
Indeed she did, and that's very hip. St. Teresa swings, so does St. John of the Cross. I mean, the Spanish one. But dig, you see all these cats running around desperately afraid they're going to flip, And they're running around holding themselves together with scotch tape and chicken wire and 18 martinis for lunch. Juice heads are the lowest, man. And they're all afraid they're going to crack and explode all over their friends. And it'll be very messy and embarrassing. And they're going to blow their gig at the agency. And the finance company is going to come and repossess the children. And it's going to be the end of the world, Much hipper just to relax and flip. Groove with it. You begin to go, and you spew the immortal, the ever word pudding. You could shoot the scenery, you can run around, you could wail upon yourself, dragging yourself round and round and about inside your own head. You never move. You sit there quiet, your face in a complete smiling groove, and internally you're on the loose wig. You're yes, I dig it. It's too much. Yeah.
Are you all right, Mr. Romo?
Yeah, I'm straight. Hey, you don't look so hot, though. What's the matter?
You did give me a bad moment or two there, I must admit.
I'll get you a glass of water, huh? Now, dig, baby, was that so bad? The sky did not darken, nay, the earth did not open. Everything's a groove. You ought to flip out once, Jim. Then at least you wouldn't have that to worry about anymore. Dig, once you get used to it, insanity can be the most normal thing in the world,
The Riff. The hipster's life is strongly influenced by jazz music. Much, if not most, of the hip vocabulary originated with jazz musicians. Isn't that right, Mr. Romo?
Yes, that's right. That's true.
Now take, for example, the riff, the conversational riff, which is a spoken counterpart of the jazz riff, which is an instrumental solo improvised around a set of chords or upon a given theme.
Oh, my.
Mr. Romo, I wonder if here in the studio you couldn't give us an example of a riff.
Well, I think I could do better than give you an example, which would be me saying this is what I heard at a very great expense to myself from an aspect of my cool, because everyone has a limited supply of cool, and it's very easy to blow it. And I have done something which could have blown all my cool. I have taken that little microcorder thing you gave me, that tiny little machine, and I have bring you in person riffs, people from various parties. Things were scenes were going on. Like last week at the feast of the Saturday night delightful pudding, which we call it, like you have to call something more than what it is in order to make it more appealing, because you say...
Fine, Mr. Romo.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I thought you'd dig it.
In the control booth there, would you run the tape?
Yeah. There was this cat, man, a very far-out cat. Like he had weird ideas. Couldn't stop his head, you know? He was hip, he was in some kind of genius, but dig. Like this cat was such an out-genius that the thing he was a genius at hadn't been invented yet. So what does he do? He decides he's going to be the world's most esoteric concert promoter, you dig? He gets these enormous posters printed up and he puts them all over town and they say, "He is coming." And people look at the posters and they say, "Oh, wow." Well, like, it's difficult to arouse anybody's interest in it. Then about a week and a half later, new posters go up. Big ones, brighter ones. They shine at night. It says, "He is coming to Carnegie Hall." And then a little later, "He is coming to Carnegie Hall on October 23rd. And now people are hung up. They're beginning to get fascinated. Tickets are selling. Then there's a gigantic full-page ad in the New York Times. "He is coming tonight." Crowds now. They've begun to mill out in front. And there are these posters 20 feet high that say, in Old English script, "He is here." Now people are jammed. They're standing room only, 8:45. There's this hush of expectancy. The house lights dim. They take too long to dim, little hanger. Then the curtain rises. In the middle of the stage is this gigantic sign. Man, he has gone.
I live in a violin. It's very comfortable in a violin. I keep it tidy. When the cigarette ashes have a tendency to fall in it, I sweep them up and I throw them out. I don't believe that I interfere with the tone of the violin when it's in use. And when they're playing it, I pick a harmonic, resonant frequency and I hum. I like to think I add to the tone. I hear rumors that they're gonna tear it down and put up one of those electric 12-string steel guitars. What a drag. I understand that when they condemn a property, they have to move you to a dwelling of similar rent, condition, district. Like they couldn't put me in a trombone, a cello maybe, or a bass. Except that's kind of silly, one guy living in the bass. Maybe I could live in one of those, what do you call those oriental things? Those triangular banjos. A balalaika. That'd be a groove. I could decorate it kind of Danish modern. If they do condemn the old fiddle here, I think I'll put in for a balalaika. Yeah. Like, they're sending up a spaceship on a translunar orbit, you know? And they sent up this astronaut, and he's been hanging around Cape Canaveral a long time, and he gets his shot, boom, he can go. And they also send up a laboratory animal along with him to test the radiation and the Van Allen radiation belts and the cosmic rays and the genetic unpleasantness and that whole business. And so they decide to send along this frog, because they can cut him up afterwards, And they're in orbit for 63 days, man. The man and the frog. And they come back and they land perfect landing, man. Beautiful in the Utah salt flats. Everything is happening marvelous. And the country goes wild, man. Pandemonium breaks loose. There's citations and congratulations from every country, and there's parades. There's a ticker tape parade up Fifth Avenue in New York, and everybody's flipping out, man. There's pictures of the cat and the frog on the cover of Time and Newsweek and U.S. News and World Report and Life magazine. And to top it all off, they're booked on the Sullivan Show. So it's the night of the show. And Senor Wences does his bit, and he splits, and the spot comes on, and out comes the astronaut, and he's carrying this frog. And Sullivan becomes very effusive and congratulatory on the whole scene, and the medals and the ribbons and the ring-ding, and this heroic man and this heroic frog all alone in space for 63 days. I know the kids in the audience would dig to get a closer look at this little fella, and he reaches for the frog, man, and the astronaut flips. Get your hands off my frog. The hang-up.
Oh.
Mr. Romo, what do you mean when you say that you're hung up? When you came to the studio this morning, you were over 2 hours late, and when I asked you where you'd been, you said that you had gotten hung up.
Yes, I had gotten hung up. That's like the all-purpose excuse, you know? If I was going to say it in English, I'd say, I know I'm late, but something very involved, it wasn't my fault, happened, and it ate into my time. Look, like I had to wait for a long-distance call or something. You know?
Oh, is that what it was? You had to wait for a telephone call?
No, man, I did not. I got hung up. You don't understand. Look, you say hung up when you want to discourage further inquiries, you know? Hung up is a universal cop-out. It's the one excuse that can't be questioned. You know, like if you're waiting for somebody and he's late, or he doesn't show at all. And then when you see him again, he says, what? He says, I'm sorry, baby, I got hung up. It takes the burden of being angry off everybody, you know? Because it wasn't anybody's fault. Like you were suddenly snatched out of wherever you were and locked into space for an hour. And there you were, yelling and screaming, and then suddenly, boom, right back into reality again. And the first words you hear are, you're late. And you say, well, I'm sorry, man, I got hung up. And the only thing to say to that is, well, wow, it must have been terrible, you think?
I'm sorry I asked.
Yeah. Well, there are all kinds of hang-ups, though. In fact, talking about hang-ups is a hang-up, you know, and the more you talk about it, it can become a drag. Because it's, you know... Now, anyway, if you say Max is a very hung-up cat, the meaning is different, because you're saying he's got psychological problems, he's very twisted, you know, he's blocked. Anything that can command your attention exclusively, is a hanger. Like I was over at this cat's house, and he went into the bathroom, and he was gone for, what, an hour and a half. So his old lady went in after him, like any old lady should. And what had happened, I think he had accidentally dropped some cigarette ash into this bathtub, and he got hung up and watched it float. This same cat walks into Figaro's one day, and he's got no hair at all on his head except for maybe a couple of little tufts. And there are 3 or 4 Band-Aids stuck around his ears, and I say, hey, man, what happened to your hair? And he says, I was shaving and I got hung up. This can happen to you. Look, practically everybody has gotten hung up one time or another counting the holes in the acoustical tile, right?
I think we're getting hung up on this subject, Mr. Romo.
Well, Dick, man, it's a very important thing. Here's a hang-up for you. Did you ever just sit and think for a minute how large your tongue is?
No, I can't say I have.
Yeah, just think about it. A tongue is a very large thing.
I've never thought about it before. My George, it certainly fills up most of your mouth, doesn't it?
It's big, yeah.
Strange. This enormous muscle in the middle of my head.
Huge.
It makes it a little difficult to talk, doesn't it?
Like in Zen. The Zen Buddhists have these koans. You know, they're riddles that you meditate on. And the whole purpose of the riddles is to hang you up. Like, we know the sound of 2 hands, but what is the sound of 1 hand? Now, that's had Buddhist monks hung up for years.
Mr. Romo, I'm afraid we're going to have to take a break for a few minutes.
Oh, really? Oh, great. Oh, wow.
Put on, put down, come on, come down, bring down. To put on, to put down, to come on, to come down, and to bring down. These expressions all sound similar, but have distinctly different meanings. Let's examine some of these phrases with an eye towards clarification, shall we?
Well.
How about come on, to come on?
Yeah, coming on is like how you present yourself to the world, out front. Or like in any given situation, you think?
I'm afraid not, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, don't be afraid, I hope. Like, if you're hip, you generally come on cool. If you get bugged, like drug with a cat, you'll come on salty. Squares generally come on, corny. Well, what can I tell you?
Corny. Corny, is that a hipsterism?
Yes, it is. It is if a hipster says it. The words change all the time. The old words keep coming back. Dig, if you know a cat is hip, he can say anything, man, like sounds or hubba hubba or read or vowdy. He has to be very hip, of course. But you know that if he's not in that bag, it's cool. Anachronisms add a little color, Like it's a gas to pick up on Rudy Valley records. Like, stick one in between Miles and Ornette Coleman. But if that's your groove, baby, your all-around bag, forget it, you know what I mean?
I see. Do you hipsters regard squares as the enemy?
Oh, no, man. Squares are cool. Enemy, if they attack you one way or another, but you've got to have them. They run the subways like it's not their fault. It's just the bag they're in. Unless they come on at you, like I said. If they come up and say, "You've got to play by the rules, boy," well, that's a stone drag. Coming on. Coming on is also when a cat has an overdeveloped personality. You say, "He comes on strong." It's like the Dale Carnegie syndrome, you dig? You could say he comes on.
I see.
Yeah, I'm glad you see. There's another meaning, though. When you come on with a chick, you are sounding her, you dig? To make a sound. You are, demonstrating a desire to become intimate with her.
How about come down?
Well, you come down when whatever willful chemical self-poisoning you have undergone, if you have undergone it, to change your perspective, regardless of its size, when that wears off. You dig?
I understand there have been from time to time certain isolated cases of the usage of narcotics on the hip scene.
No, man, that's just an ugly rumor,
I see. Bring down.
Right.
I beg your pardon?
It is. Oh, yeah. Bring down. Well, that's a kind of a person or thing or situation that makes you come down. A stone drag. Like, you don't have to be high to be brought down. Like when you're feeling good or maybe you're just feeling acceptable. And then you get some bad news, you get brought down. Brought down from one level of psychic vibration to an inferior level of same, Well, some people are chronic bring-downs. They never get asked anywhere. They say people all the time about them is said, "Man, don't bring him along, he's a bring-down." Like there's this one cat. Now, he is such a stone bring-down that you can use him for an antidote. That's how he exists, his knowledge of this. Like if you ever take too much of anything, and you want to get off of it, you send for this cat. And he walks in and says, "Hello, George." And pop, again, wham, there you are. That's it, you're down. And then you say, "Thank you, Herman," you may go, and he splits. He serves his function. God in his infinite wisdom made Herman a bring down. Now, what can I tell you?
I see. To put on, how about a put on?
What?
A put on.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Man, you keep reading your little list there and asking me all these things like, it knocks me out. All right, I'm going to blow it. I know you know what all these things mean. I can tell, man, like you're putting me on. You're very hip, Yeah, you are. Stop, don't be embarrassed. You're about as hip a cat as you're going to find around, So, like, I should be asking you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Romo. Coming from you, that's certainly flattering.
Well, it's not very flattering, really, for long, because right now I'm going to tell you that it's not very true, ever, not for a moment. See, I was putting you on. That was a put on. I didn't mean it, but it was a lie, and I enjoy it, and I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings.
That's quite all right.
Now, buck up. That was a demonstration from which we learned two things, One, what a put on is, and two, that it is inherently vicious. Like the whole point is to put people through changes. There, again, see, another word, beautiful, changes. That comes from the music, where it is when a chord changes. But now it mostly means intellectual, emotional head changes. Like you take the lid off your Maytag and there is a giant octopus thrashing about, you would go through a change. But like if I was with you and I said, "What octopus? Man, you're out of your nut," then it would become a put-on. There are some cats who never stop. Their whole existence is dedicated to putting on the world. It can become a way of life, and it can also become a drag.
Some of the hip antecedents go back quite a ways. Shakespeare, in As You Like It, used the line, "You have put him down, lady, you have put him down." Does put down on the hip scene have the same meaning today?
Yeah, so long as you're talking about the same thing. I guess it does, then, because if you are talking about the same thing, it has to.
Yes, I see.
Yeah.
What do you actually do to someone when you put him down?
Oh, you destroy them, man, verbally. But like a cat has got to have done something first in order to get put down. Because unless you're an evil cat, you don't go around putting people down for no reason, you know? So when a cat does some dumb, uncool thing, say like he runs up to you on the street and screams, "Have you got any dope?" You know, then it's a moment of horrible truth. Like, whether you do or don't, it doesn't matter. The first thing you've got to do is cool the cat. Then you can put him down. Like you could say, "My good man," and walk away very quickly with great dignity. Or you could say, "No habla inglés," and look at him that way. Or "You're not real." And then you could put him down with a look. This is a look that's very hard to describe on a record, you know? You look at him with eyes and a look that say, "I will never look at you again and like you. No one I ever know will ever look at you again and like you. You will never be invited anywhere. You will never be told anything. You are a menace. Go away." You know, you look at him like that. That's a put down.
Mr. Romo, I must admit that I'm puzzled. You hipsters claim to be such relaxed, free spirits, yet your rules for social behavior are even more set, tight, and rigid than those of square society.
Yeah, well, dig, it's simple. I'll spell it out for you. You know, a lot of the simple everyday behavior is illegal. So there's always a lot of heat on the scene. And, you know, you got to protect yourself. Now, if you break the rules of hip, you get put down, that's true. But you break the square rules and they throw you in the slam, and that's a big difference. Now, anyway, look, there's only two basic rules in hip. You protect yourself from the possibility of police intervention, which means you don't associate with uncool people and things. And you protect your state of mind. Now, that means you don't want anybody around who's going to bring you down, right? We talked about that. You understand what I mean? You follow the hip commandment. "Thou shalt not bug thy neighbor," which means be cool, that's all.
Cool. Cool is a word that seems to change meaning every time it's used.
Yeah, it does. Cool it means stop it, you know, or change the subject or split, or it's a warning. All those things and just that one thing. It's cool with me means okay, you know, it's okay. It's cool means it's all right or it's not dangerous. Cool means something all by itself, you know, but it's like trying to define hip, you know, or hip in general, or righteousness, you know? You can give 100 examples of what it isn't, but you're going to have a hell of a time saying what it is. You know, like here's an example. Say you're going out and done in your head, you know, or you stayed in and done in your head and gone out, or you've done both everywhere you went. And it's 4:30 in the morning and you're in a diner eating your banana cream pie, and sits down right opposite you a cop. Now, your natural reaction is going to be, you know, "I want to laugh hysterically," you know, but some part of you says, "Nay," it says this is an urge of some self-destructive part of you. And you say to yourself, "Be cool," you know, unless, of course, you blow your cool and come all unglued in front of everybody. Then no use to say, "Be cool," because it's happened. And then you're going to attract the attention of the cop, and he's going to regard you as a menace. And this will get you a reputation as a very uncool face, having everybody seeing this cop regard you as a menace, and all in all, it's a drag, you know? The hip thing is to be able to perform the exactly appropriate action at all times, and that is not easy. It can, you know, it leads to paranoia, you know? What's that? You know, who's that? Who's out there? What's that car? Who's in that car? Who? Why is that car there? That car wasn't there. What? You know? The what, who, where? The eyeball disease. You get jumpy. It creeps up on you sometimes. Paranoia is the hipster's disease. Yeah, like I was at a party once, you know, in the cemented park out in front of the UN building. You know, and I got drugged, so I split. Then I walked over to 2nd Avenue and 40th, and I went to this little restaurant, you know, in Nedick's or Rikers or something. It doesn't matter. And I ordered a bowl of Jell-O, you know, with milk, raspberry Jell-O. And it was great, so I ordered another bowl. But halfway through my third bowl of raspberry Jell-O, I realized that if I ordered another bowl, the counterman would call the cops, you know. "There's this nut eating Jell-O, looks funny to me, better come over and pick him up." You know, so I split, you know, I got in the wind very carefully. There's a definite way to do that. It's sort of like, well, I've had enough Jell-O now, I just think I'll go for a walk. It's a very touchy situation. So I got out and I got to 42nd Street to a Rudley's, and I have another bowl of Jell-O, same kind. And man, I want to tell you, I worked my way up to 68th Street eating Jell-O, driven by hunger and paranoia. You know, because life is not without its hazards, man. You know what I mean?
We've been talking about cool and its ramifications and how it applies to the hip scene. But maybe you could give us some examples now of the opposite of cool, uncool. Just exactly what is uncool?
Yeah, why don't you have some thoughts on that? It's uncool to claim you used to room with Bird or that you have Bird's axe. It's even less cool to ask, who is Bird? It's uncool to nod on the street corner waiting for the light to change. And it's uncool to let anybody know your uncle is a registered pharmacist. Uncool for the whole family. It's uncool to buddy with a known fink. It's uncool to ask, where'd you get it? It's disastrously uncool to let friends use your pad as a forwarding address for packages from Mexico. And it's uncool to ask, where'd you get it? And it is uncool to wear shades after sunset, unless you should be wearing shades after sunset. In which case it is uncool to take them off.
Come with us now as we follow Geets Romo in a search for what the hipsters call the action. Mr. Romo is our guide on this field trip. So as not to attract attention to myself, I'm disguised as a hipster, wearing a dirty gray turtleneck sweater, a purple cardigan, green trousers, and tennis shoes. I'm speaking into a microphone which is cleverly concealed in a very convincing false beard. The tape recorder is in a large brown paper bag with a grease spot on it. Hey, Daddy-O, how do I look?
Oh, the humanity. Okay, just don't talk, too,
Oh, good, we're in luck. Someone's coming down the street now who seems to recognize Mr. Romo. Hey, baby, what's happening, man?
Hey, nothing. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, man, who's that geek with the microphone in his beard?
Yeah, well, you wouldn't believe me because I don't believe me, but it's cool,
You sure?
Yeah. Right, I'm sure, okay.
So news of what's happening?
Nothing, you got it all, baby.
Oh, well, it's a drag. Hey, Dig, baby, I gotta split. I gotta go to work, pay the rent.
Yeah, you're okay.
Later.
Yeah, later.
Who was that, Mr. Romo?
Benny Gillette, he's in the insurance business.
Mr. Romo. Geets, look. Mr. Gillette, he's walking right in front of that cab.
Yeah, so we do. Thud, look at him, body English, beautiful. That's cool, don't worry, man. I seen him take about 3 big falls, and 1 truck fall, which, he came out the worst, but it was okay. He's in the insurance business. Yeah, you get it? The insurance business.
We're now walking down one of the main streets of colorful New York's Greenwich Village.
What's happening?
This is a neighborhood, apparently, in which Mr. Romo seems to have a number of very colorful acquaintances. He's being greeted by various friends of his, very colorful people in their colorful costumes. We're walking slowly down McDougal Street. There is a very beautiful girl standing in front of a small delicatessen here. She's smiling at Mr. Romo. Mr. Romo, Pete, who's that lovely creature?
Well, I hate to tell you, man, that's not a chick, that's Morris the Booster, you think? He's probably got half that deli stash under his skirt,
Well, I'm sorry, that's a beautiful...
Yeah, no, don't be sorry, just walk on. Listen, don't stand there either, gaping and pointing, man, that's very rude, not to mention uncool. Listen, let's go in here where we can talk, huh? See, so that's what's happening, Everybody's got his own shot, you think?
Oh, whatever happened to Boogie Woogie?
Got what it deserved.
Now we're standing in the heart of Times Square. It was Mr. Romo's suggestion that we move from the village to... what happens in Times Square, Mr. Romo?
Well, everything happens. Last time I was here, they were taking down 2 huge people on the clothes sign. I usually come up and look at the light bulbs, But I wanted to show you something specific, man. You see that cat standing over there by the litter basket, the huge litter basket?
Yes.
Yeah, there stands a victim, man. A victim of a vicious riff. His name is Charlie L. Miller. He comes from Horse's Breath, Montana, that's in the Central Stranded time zone, forever. See how he's standing with that look of expectancy? When he first came to New York, somebody told him that old adage, If you stared on Times Square long enough, you're going to meet everybody you know. He came to New York in 1948.
He's been standing there ever since.
Ever since, except for a couple of weeks when he came down with mononucleosis.
Oh, the poor man. What does he do in the daytime?
He's president of the Chase Manhattan Bank 30 days.
Oh, Romo, you're putting me on.
Yes, right. Ah, at last. Look, there's hope for you after all. Get rid of that beer, and let's split. Congratulations. We'll have a celebration, all right? Let's have a cab on you.
This completes your language instruction record in spoken hip. Now that you've studied this record, you should be able to work hip expressions into your everyday conversation. For only with practice will you gain the confidence and authority that's necessary to convince a real hipster that hip is your language.
Yeah, right. Work 'em in.
Experiment with using the words like and man. Try this. Every time you'd ordinarily pause in speaking or say like. Remember, any declarative sentence can begin with the word like and end with the word man. I am going to the post office becomes hip by saying, like I'm going to the post office, man, or man, like I'm going to the post office, or even, man, I'm going to the post office, like. You dig? Then add dig and I'm hip. Like, man, dig, and I'm hip are the key to basic spoken hip. And the imaginative student might well be able to pass himself off as a hipster with only these 4 expressions.
Oh, true. Sad, but true.
Unfortunately, we can assume no responsibility for the results obtained by putting the information contained on this record into practice.
Cop out.
Do you have anything to add, Mr. Romo?
No, that was very eloquently said, baby. Just tell him to play it cool. You know what I mean?
All right, as Geets Romo says, play it cool, and good luck.
Yeah, okay, now that's over. Can I have my bread, huh? As I can split.